The mountains do not raise their voices to announce their greatness. They stand, silent, unshakable, their strength carved deep into the bones of the earth. The oceans do not boast of their mysteries. They stretch endlessly beneath the sky, carrying within them secrets older than memory itself. True power does not clamor for attention. It breathes. It endures. It simply is. In much the same way, there are women in this world who walk alone. Not because they are abandoned, not because they are lacking, but because they have found a fullness within themselves that needs no echo. Their strength is not wrapped in noise or applause. It is the silent, steady flame that continues to burn, even when unseen. It is the mountain standing through every season, the ocean singing its eternal hymn without needing an audience. To live alone is not to be empty. It is to be vast. It is to be whole. A woman who lives without a man is often misunderstood. Stories are spun around her. Assumptions are whispered at her back. But the truth breathes beneath all those illusions. She is not waiting for anyone. She is not a missing piece. She is a complete, living masterpiece of her own making. Today, before we step deeper into this journey, I invite you to set aside the old stories. The ones that tie worth to companionship. The ones that chain happiness to another's presence. Today, let us look through different eyes. Through the eyes of Zen. Eyes that see not what is missing, but what is marvelously, fiercely present. Let us witness the silent power of stillness and the extraordinary beauty of a life lived fully, bravely, and quietly whole. In the quiet teachings of Zen, there is a simple, enduring truth. Be a lamp unto yourself. Do not look to another to light your path. Do not wait for someone to hand you the permission to live. The woman who walks alone has heard this call, not with her ears, but with her soul. She has kindled her own flame, steady and unwavering, and in its gentle light, she finds her way. Her path is not paved with validation. It is not mapped by the footprints of others. It curves and twists and ascends according to the deep rhythm of her own spirit. In a world that often measures a woman's worth by her ability to belong to someone else, she steps aside. She does not stand in rebellion, fists raised, nor does she stand in sadness, head bowed. She simply steps quietly onto her own path, a path that may be less crowded, a path that demands more courage, but a path that is hers alone. Like the pine tree that does not envy the rose, she does not compare her journey to another's bloom. Each destiny unfolds according to its own sacred design. Zen teaches that comparison is a thief, robbing the soul of the joy that is already present. And so, she chooses differently. She chooses a life where her laughter does not need to echo off another's walls to be real, where her dreams are not diluted to fit another's plan, where her mornings are crafted by her own hands, soft and strong. Freedom, for her, is not found in detachment from others. It is found in a profound attachment to her own destiny. She is not adrift. She is anchored in the knowing that her life, just as it is, unfolding at its own pace, is exactly where it needs to be. Today, as we continue, remember, freedom is not always loud. Destiny is not always obvious. Sometimes they arrive quietly, in the choice to walk alone, in the courage to trust the heart's whisper over the world's roar. The morning sunlight spills gently across the wooden floor. No footsteps echo in the hallway. No distant voice calls her name. And yet, there is no emptiness here. Only space. Only breath. Only the soft unfolding of a day born from her own hands. She rises not to meet expectations, but to meet the sacred rhythm of her own life. She brews a cup of tea, watching the steam curl upward like a silent prayer. She waters a small plant by the windowsill, each droplet a blessing offered to life itself. There is no one watching, no one applauding. And that is precisely the beauty of it. Every act becomes a meditation, folding a blanket, lighting a candle, turning the pages of a well-worn book. In a world obsessed with speed and spectacle, she moves differently, slowly, deliberately, present. Zen teaches, when you wash a bowl, wash it as if washing the entire universe. And so, as she sweeps the floor, she sweeps away not only dust, but also the noise of the world outside. As she opens a window, she opens her heart to the newness of the day. The life she lives may appear simple to outsiders, a string of quiet moments stitched together by solitude. But to her, each moment is vast, each breath a cathedral, Each simple task, a doorway into gratitude. She has discovered what many spend lifetimes chasing: the joy hidden within the ordinary, the richness woven into simplicity. She does not need a calendar crowded with appointments, or a house filled with voices to feel alive. Her days are not empty. They are spacious, full of the small, sacred miracles that most rush past without seeing. She does not escape into fantasy. She drinks deeply from the real, the immediate, the gloriously simple now. And so, her life becomes a kind of prayer, not recited in temples, but lived moment by moment. In the hallowed halls of her own quiet home, there is a fire that burns within her, a fire unseen by the casual passerby, untouched by the need for validation. It is not a blaze fed by admiration. It is not a spark that flickers only when others notice. It is the slow, steady flame of self-knowing. While many chase after borrowed light, hoping to bask in the glow of another's approval, she has learned to kindle her own warmth. Patiently, tenderly, fiercely. Her joy is not strung on the thin threads of external praise. It does not sway with the winds of someone else's affection. It roots deep, far beneath the surface, where no storm can reach. Zen wisdom teaches, desire is the root of suffering, and she has seen this truth with clear eyes. To crave constant affirmation, to seek fulfillment in someone else's gaze, is to plant one's tree in another's shifting soil. But she has planted her roots in her own ground, and there, in the rich, untouched soil of her own soul, she has found sustenance. The fire inside her is not a spectacle. It does not demand attention. It simply warms her from within, lighting her path even on the coldest of days. She does not burn to be admired. She burns because burning is her nature, because her spirit was always meant to glow in the dark. Those who are wise enough to come near her feel the heat, not as a consuming inferno, but as a quiet, radiant invitation to tend their own neglected flames. She teaches, without words, that true joy does not come from being chosen, desired, or praised. It comes from choosing oneself, again and again, with tenderness, with fierceness, with unwavering trust. The world may look at her and wonder, why does she glow without anyone to fan her flames? The answer is simple. She has become her own hearth, her own warmth, her own enduring light, and that is a power no hand can grant, and no loss can ever take away. For too long, the world has spun stories around women, stories woven with invisible threads of expectation, tales of damsels waiting in high towers, tales of salvation arriving on horseback, tales that whisper, "You are not whole until someone claims you." But she has stepped beyond those brittle pages. She does not wait for rescue. She does not measure her worth by the footsteps approaching or receding. She is not a pause song, waiting for someone to press play. She lives. She breathes. She blossoms, not for an audience, but because blooming is what she was made to do. The flower does not open to be seen. It opens because the sun calls it, because life stirs within its petals, because that is its nature. And so she, too, opens, not to attract, not to impress, not to satisfy an ancient myth, but because unfolding is who she is. Zen smiles gently at the illusions we clutch so tightly. Drop the stories, it says. See what is. What is a woman who walks her own path, who writes her own legends, who refuses to bind her happiness to the arrival of anyone else. She does not fear solitude. She fears only a life unlived, a spirit stifled beneath someone else's expectations. The world may gaze at her with confusion, with pity, with awe, but she does not gaze back, seeking approval. She smiles, not out of rebellion, but out of understanding. She knows. The greatest myths are the ones we unknowingly inherit, and the greatest freedom comes from stepping outside their invisible walls. Her life is not a protest against love. It is a celebration of selfhood. She does not reject connection. She simply refuses to see connection as the sole source of meaning. And in doing so, she breaks 1,000 old myths. Not with shouting, not with banners, but with the simple, radiant act of being wholly, unapologetically herself. There is a sorrowful confusion that haunts many hearts. The belief that being alone must mean being lonely. But in truth, loneliness and aloneness are not the same river. They flow in opposite directions. Loneliness cries out, "I am missing something." It gnaws at the soul, feeding on absence, on unmet needs, unimagined lacks. Aloneness, however, sings a different song. A song of wholeness. A song of quiet sufficiency. A song that says, I am complete within myself. The woman who walks alone has tasted both rivers, and she has chosen the one that nourishes rather than drains. She knows that loneliness stems from clinging to the idea that happiness must come from outside, that worth must be reflected in someone else's eyes. Zen whispers, cling to nothing, and you shall be free. And so she lets go. She lets go of the need for constant company. She lets go of the yearning to be filled by another's presence. Instead, she draws water from her own well. She drinks from her own hands, and she finds the taste pure, sweet, sustaining. Her mornings are not echoes of absence. They are songs of self-sufficiency. Her evenings are not filled with longing. They are gardens where her dreams bloom quietly under the stars. Loneliness is a hunger for what is missing. Aloneness is a feast on what is already present. While others scramble for noise to fill the silence, she listens to the silence itself and discovers it is not empty, but alive. Alive with the whisper of leaves outside her window. Alive with the slow turning of the earth. Alive with the steady, patient beating of her own heart. She has befriended her solitude, and in doing so, she has befriended herself. The world may misinterpret her quiet. They may see absence where there is abundance, but she knows. She knows that to walk alone is not to be forsaken. It is to be free, and in this sacred freedom, she finds not loneliness, but a boundless, overflowing love for the simple miracle of being alive. Strength often wears a quiet face. It does not always roar. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it simply stands, unmoved, unnoticed. In her life, strength is not measured in grand gestures. It is found in the small, steadfast choices she makes every day. To fix what is broken with her own hands. To dream without needing an audience. To carry her life forward without waiting for permission. She does not shout her victories from rooftops. She does not drape herself in medals or demand applause. She weaves her life patiently, thread by thread, building a tapestry only she may ever fully see. Zen teaches, true mastery appears when no one is watching. And so, when something falls apart, she repairs it, quietly, skillfully. When storms rage within, she grounds herself, silently, without drama. Her strength is not the kind that demands to be recognized. It is the strength of the mountain standing through centuries of winds. The strength of a tree whose roots run deep into unseen soil. Many pass her by without understanding what they are witnessing. They see a woman alone, but they do not see the countless unseen battles she has already won. The fear faced and released. The nights of doubt survived without surrender. The dreams nurtured without anyone else believing in them. Every silent decision to keep going. Every private choice to choose hope over despair cements her strength deeper into the marrow of her being. She knows, true strength is not validated by the clapping of hands. It is validated by the calm that lives in the heart, even when no one else sees, even when no one else understands. Like the bamboo that bends but does not break, she weathers storms that would uproot those with louder but shallower roots. She is not invincible. She is resilient. She is not without wounds, but she has turned her scars into threads of gold woven through the tapestry of her life. Her strength, invisible to the untrained eye, is a sacred force, steady, enduring, and profoundly beautiful. In a world that races and roars, she has chosen a different rhythm, a slower, softer song. Her life is not filled with constant noise or dazzling spectacle. Instead, it overflows with small, quiet joys, the kind that many rush past without noticing. The first sip of morning tea, still steaming in the fragile silence of dawn. The way sunlight dances across her kitchen floor, laying down golden pathways only she will walk. The simple act of turning the pages of a beloved book, where each word feels like a stone tossed into a still pond, rippling gently through her mind. The soft hum of the wind weaving through an open window. The bloom of a flower she nurtured with patient hands. The silent companionship of a candle flickering at night. Zen teaches, when you wash a bowl, wash it as if you were washing the entire universe. And so she does. She folds her clothes as if folding blessings into the fabric of her days. She sweeps her floor as if clearing a temple. She waters her plants as if watering her own soul. Nothing is too small to matter. Nothing is too ordinary to be sacred. While others seek grand adventures to feel alive, she has found a secret doorway, the endless miracles hidden within ordinary moments. To her, happiness is not a prize won after hardship. It is a state of being cultivated moment by moment, breath by breath, smile by smile. Every task becomes a form of prayer. Every breath, a reminder that simply existing, awake, aware, grateful, is already a blessing. The world may not understand her joy. They may see her life as quiet, uneventful, plain. But she knows the truth. There is a universe blooming within her daily rituals. There is a richness to be found in living slowly, deliberately, attentively. And in this sacred simplicity, she finds a joy so profound that it does not shout. It simply smiles, quietly, from the core of her being. She has discovered a secret the noisy world has forgotten. The smallest things, when touched by presence, become everything. Even in a life shaped by quiet joys, storms sometimes gather. Fear taps at the window. Doubt curls under the door like morning mist. Loneliness, though tamed, sometimes prowls at the edges of night. But she does not run from these visitors. She does not barricade herself behind distractions or empty noise. Instead, she invites them in. She pours them a cup of tea. She listens. Zen teaches, face everything, avoid nothing. And so she faces fear, not as an enemy, but as a teacher. Some nights, the silence of her home feels vast, stretching wide enough to echo her smallest thoughts. Some mornings, uncertainty whispers questions she cannot answer. But she remains. She breathes. She draws upon her tools, the sacred weapons of the soul. Mindfulness, to see clearly without judgment. Patience, to endure the storms without losing herself. Compassion, to hold her trembling heart with tender hands. Fear, she understands, is not a command to obey. It is a message to read, a weather pattern to observe, a shadow that cannot harm her unless she clings to it. She has learned that strength is not the absence of fear. Strength is moving forward even when fear walks beside her. It is cooking a meal for one with love. It is sleeping in a silent room without longing. It is standing upright in the winds of uncertainty without bending into despair. Like the bamboo that yields to the storm yet rises unbroken. She bends, but she does not break. Fear does not define her days. Doubt does not dictate her future. She meets each challenge not with resistance, but with presence, allowing it to rise, allowing it to fall, as all things must. She trusts that beyond every dark cloud, there is a clear sky waiting, and beyond every trembling moment, there is a deeper strength being born. Her life is not untouched by difficulty. It is shaped by it, made more luminous, more tender, more unshakably alive. True freedom is not the absence of love. It is the understanding that love must never be a chain. She does not close her heart to affection. She does not reject the possibility of companionship, but she holds love with open palms, never clenching, never clinging. Zen teaches, hold nothing tightly, and everything can pass through your hands. And so she holds love lightly, tenderly, respectfully. If love comes knocking, she welcomes it as a guest, not as a savior, not as a missing piece. She understands. Love is an addition to life, not a condition for living. Her heart is already full of her own dreams, her own laughter, her own silent prayers whispered into the morning air. She does not need someone to complete her. She does not yearn for someone to rescue her from herself. She has already built her home within her own being, and anyone who wishes to walk beside her must find their own wholeness too. If love enters her life, it finds her not empty, not waiting, but flourishing. She can give without losing. She can share without diminishing, because her cup is filled not by another's attention, but by the deep well of her own spirit. The bird does not sing to attract applause. It sings because it is full of song. And so she loves, not because she is incomplete without love, but because her heart overflows naturally into the lives of those around her. Freedom, to her, is sacred. It is not coldness. It is not isolation. It is the clear, pure space where true connection can bloom, not from need, but from choice, not from desperation, but from abundance. She loves when she chooses to. She walks away when love demands the sacrifice of her soul. She honors the sacred temple within her, always, and in doing so, she teaches a quieter, stronger kind of love. the kind that liberates, the kind that heals, the kind that endures beyond possession or fear. To live freely, truly freely, is to become a mirror. And sometimes, mirrors make people uncomfortable. Her quiet existence, so whole within itself, reflects back the invisible cages that many have built around their own hearts. Without raising her voice, without lifting a single stone, she unsettles. She reminds others of the dreams they abandoned. She reflects the compromises they have accepted as normal. She shines light on the silent bargains they have made with fear, loneliness, and convention. Not by preaching, not by accusing, simply by living. Zen teaches, the wise reflect the world like a still lake, without stirring it, without clinging to it. And so she reflects. Those who see her and whisper, how lonely she must be, are often whispering their own fears aloud. Those who judge her, why hasn't she settled down, reveal their own discomfort with paths less traveled. The pity cast her way is not hers to carry. It belongs to those who have forgotten how to walk alone. She does not argue with these judgments. She does not waste breath explaining herself. She knows that true freedom is often misunderstood by those still chained to their unspoken fears. Her life is a silent testament, a living koan, a riddle that cannot be solved by those who only see through the lens of conformity. She embodies a truth that many have long buried. That joy, strength, and wholeness are not gifts bestowed by society. They are treasures uncovered within. And while some will scoff, and others will pity, a rare few will pause, troubled, inspired, awakened. And in that pause, in that fleeting crack in their certainty, something sacred may begin. The questioning, the stirring, the first breath of their own liberation. Her life is not an accusation. It is an invitation to remember. Freedom is possible. Wholeness is possible. You do not have to be chosen to be worthy. You do not have to be understood to be real. You already are. In a world obsessed with finding the one, she has found someone far more essential. Herself. There is a companionship deeper than shared conversations, more enduring than fleeting embraces. The quiet, fierce, tender companionship of one's own soul, through the seasons of solitude, through the long nights and spacious mornings. She has come to know herself as both traveler and home. She has learned to sit with her own fears without flinching. She has learned to dance with her own dreams without shame. She has learned to cradle her own sadness and laughter alike. As a mother cradles a beloved child, Zen reminds us, the greatest companion you will ever meet is your own soul. And now, she understands. Where others seek completion in another's eyes, she has built a mirror within. A mirror polished not by vanity, but by compassion, by patience, by truth. Her conversations with herself are deep, unhurried. They are not laced with judgment, but with curiosity, kindness, and fierce honesty. She does not abandon herself when fear knocks. She does not betray herself to fit into smaller spaces. She sits. She listens. She holds space for every version of herself. The strong, the uncertain, the radiant, the raw. No fleeting romance, no passing approval, can replace the depth she has cultivated within. She loves others, not from emptiness, but from overflow. She gives, not because she needs validation, but because her cup is full enough to spill naturally into the lives of others. If love comes again, it will not find her desperate. It will not find her aching to be saved. It will find her standing tall and luminous, offering not have seeking completion, but whole seeking connection. The bond she has built within herself is unbreakable. The roots she has planted run deeper than loneliness, stronger than passing seasons. She is her own sanctuary, her own refuge, her own beloved, and in that sacred meeting within, she has found the one relationship that can never be lost, never betrayed, never diminished, the eternal embrace of her own awakened heart. In a world that applauds noise, her quiet is an act of rebellion. In a culture that worships possession, her wholeness is a revolution. Without banners, without slogans, without crowds, she stands. She does not stand to be seen. She does not stand to be applauded. She stands because standing is her nature, rooted, present, unshaken. Zen teaches, if you cannot find the truth where you stand, where else do you expect to find it? And she has found the truth, not in distant promises, not in another's arms, but here, where her own feet meet the sacred ground of now. Her life is a quiet uprising against the myths that say, you must be chosen to matter. You must be loved to be whole. You must belong to someone to be complete. She has broken those chains, not by shouting, but simply by living differently, by breathing freely, by loving herself without condition. Many walk past her without noticing the silent fire she carries. But for those with eyes to see, her very existence challenges, stirs, awakens. She is a reminder that happiness is not leased from another, that strength is not bestowed by validation, that freedom is not granted by approval. It is built, day by day, within. She is not waiting for her life to begin. She is not longing for permission to be herself. She is complete, radiant, whole. Her revolution is not to overthrow others. It is to overthrow fear, dependency, doubt, within herself first, and by her example, perhaps, within those who dare to look deeper. In her silent standing, she offers a radical invitation to return to yourself, to meet your own soul, to claim the life that is already waiting for you. Not someday, not if someone arrives, but now. She does not conquer with force. She conquers by presence, by being exactly who she is, unapologetically, unshakably, gloriously. And in that being, she becomes a silent revolution, a living proof that true freedom needs no witness to be real. The lessons she teaches without speaking. 1. Freedom beyond loneliness. Freedom is not the absence of company. It is the absence of need. She shows us that loneliness is not a place we live, but a story we tell ourselves. Her life teaches that solitude, when embraced, becomes sanctuary, not a prison, but a temple. In her quiet existence, she whispers, you are already whole. You are not missing a piece. Loneliness fades when we realize nothing outside can complete what is already complete within. 2. Strength without witnesses. Strength that demands recognition is not strength. It is performance. True strength grows unseen, like roots deepening in silent soil, like mountains rising without announcement. She teaches that resilience does not always roar. Sometimes it simply breathes. It wakes up, tends the fire, faces the wind without complaint. In her quiet perseverance, she reminds us, you do not need applause to be strong. You do not need witnesses to be real. 3. Shattering myths gently, without protest banners, without loud speeches. She shatters myths. The myth that love is the ultimate goal. The myth that partnership is the only measure of fulfillment. The myth that solitude is a symptom of failure. She does not argue with these old stories. She simply outgrows them. By living joyfully in her own skin, she dissolves the ancient illusions. Like morning sun melting mist, her life says, simply, you can be free. You can be whole. You can be your own destiny. 4. Sacred simplicity. In a world dazzled by noise and complexity, she honors the sacred art of simplicity. A cup of tea savored slowly, a floor swept with mindfulness, a sunset watched without distraction. Zen teaches, before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. She lives this truth, finding holiness not in grand gestures, but in the ordinary acts done with extraordinary presence. Her simplicity is not lack. It is richness distilled. It is living fully within each breath, without racing ahead, without yearning for elsewhere. 5. Facing challenges inwardly. Fear is not her master. It is her mirror. When storms rise, she does not seek a savior. She turns inward, where courage waits, not loudly, but faithfully. She faces the tremors of uncertainty, the whispers of doubt, not by fighting them, but by sitting with them, breathing with them, allowing them to pass. As all things pass, she shows us that the battlefield is within, and victory comes not by vanquishing fear, but by refusing to abandon ourselves in its presence. 6. Loving without losing. She has redefined love. Love, for her, is not a chain. It is not a possession. It is not a cure. It is an offering, freely given, freely received. She loves without collapsing. She gives without emptying herself. If someone walks beside her, it is a shared journey, not a rescue, not a crutch. Her love springs from overflow, not hunger. And in this, she teaches the highest form of connection. I do not need you to complete me. I choose to walk with you because my soul is already full. 7. Awakening others by existing. Without shouting a single word, without teaching a single lesson, she awakens. Her very being plants seeds of questioning in those who dare to look. Why do I fear being alone? What have I sacrificed chasing approval? What freedoms have I forgotten I was born with? Some may mock her. Some may pity her. Some may envy her. But the rare ones, the seekers, the ready, will feel a stirring in their bones. An ancient memory of freedom. In her silent revolution, she calls to all who have forgotten. You were never incomplete. You were simply waiting to remember. At the end of all searching, at the end of all wandering, there is a door, and when you open it, you find not another person waiting. You find yourself. The woman who walks alone teaches us this, that the companion you have been longing for, the savior you have been waiting for, the love you have been seeking, they have always been within. She stands as proof that wholeness is not awarded. It is remembered. That freedom is not given. It is reclaimed. That joy is not earned through the approval of others. It blooms naturally when we return to the home of our own hearts. She reminds us that solitude is not an absence. It is an invitation, a sacred threshold, an opening into the vast, luminous country of your own soul. If you dare to walk alone, you may discover what she has found, that you are not broken, that you are not missing, that you are not waiting for your life to begin. You are already enough. You have always been enough. Today, as you step back into your own life, may you carry this reflection in your heart. The love you seek, the strength you admire, the freedom you long for, they are not beyond your reach. They are within your hands, within your breath, within your being. All you need to do is pause, listen, remember, and walk your path, even if no one walks beside you. Especially then, if today's reflection stirred something within you, I invite you to stay connected. Click the subscribe button below. Ring the notification bell to walk with us in future journeys. And if you feel moved, share your thoughts in the comments. What truth have you remembered today? I'd love to hear from you. Until we meet again, may you walk your path with courage. May you sit in your own presence with wonder. And may you always remember, you are whole, you are worthy, you are free.